welcome to Channel WPIG News.
Today we have some amazing people sharing some great stories.
Splendid. And on the topic of great, let's hear from Audrey Gallant sharing some news about the Holocaust.
Well, let's get into it, Audrey.
Hi, I'm Audrey from WPIG News talking about the Holocaust. Your throat feels dry because you had no food or water. You're only flesh and bones, and your legs are shaking. This was the Holocaust. I believe that Jews shouldn't have been treated like that at all. The Jewish people during this time were smart and interesting. However, the Germans despised them and sent them to horrible death camps. To begin with, these Jewish people are very interesting and smart. Albert Einstein was a Jewish scientist during this time. He studied quantum physics that would help the United States win World War II. Another person you may know is Anne Frank. Anne Frank was a young girl hiding from the Germans, sitting in a closet with her family. She wrote a diary of her life that has touched many. Unfortunately, she did not survive. A book that is inspiring is Escape. This book by Alan Zulo talks about kids who struggle to survive the Holocaust. Just know the relationship with Jews and Germans wasn't good. Here's one thing you need to know about the Nazis. The Nazis were a killing organization led by Adolf Hitler. The Nazis is a shortened name for the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Adolf Hitler thought the Jewish people took everything away from the Germans after World War I. He blamed the Germans' financial burden along with the lack of jobs on the Jewish people. That's why people think Hitler hated Jews. These death camps were one of the worst things they did to the Jewish people. Did you know that there are different types of concentration camps and ghettos? For example, the Warsaw Ghetto in Poland was a place where many Jewish people were rounded up and shot. People got killed from ghettos and in concentration camps. The most infamous concentration camp was Auschwitz. It was believed over 1 million Jewish people were killed here. This time was terrible. Finally, the people could only wear button-down shirts and jeans, and it didn't matter what weather it was. I hope you learned something about the Holocaust. This was a very dark but important time in history. It is important because we make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. Now, back to you, Anna.
Wow, Adolf Hitler was mean.
If I could go back in time, I would shred him to pieces.
Well, you can't, but you know what you can do?
What?
Hear from Sully Derone about Muggsy Bogues.
Oh yeah, let's get into it, Sully.
Thanks, Anna. You may recognize Muggsy Bogues as the shortest basketball player ever at 5 feet 3 inches, or you may know him as a basketball great. Tyrone Curtis Bogues was born on January 9th, 1965 in Baltimore, Maryland. Tyrone grew up in a rough neighborhood with not much money. Because of this, Bogues had to use a milk crate as a basket when he played basketball with his friends. It was those friends that named him Muggsy because he was small, but gave the most effort on the court, like a guy in a movie named Muggsy. After that, the nickname stuck with him. After graduating in high school at Dunbar High in Maryland, Muggsy moved on to college at Wake Forest University. In his senior year, he made the first team All-ACC, which is awarded to the best players in the ACC conference, and won the Francis Palmer Naismith Award in 1987. Because of his accomplishments, Wake Forest retired Muggsy's jersey number. Muggsy then declared for the NBA draft. He was picked 12th in round 1 of the 1987 draft by the Washington Bullets. From there, Bogues went on to average 7.7 points and 7.6 assists per game in his 14-season NBA career. Out of the 4 teams he played for, Muggsy was most known for his time with the Charlotte Hornets, where he won Player of the Year in 1990. The Hornets even honored him at one of their games. Muggsy also had a coaching career. After he retired, he coached multiple teams, including his own high school's basketball team. Outside of both playing and coaching, Muggsy started a campaign and acted in a movie called Space Jam along with Patrick Ewing, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and other star players in the 1980s and 90s. Bogues is now 55 years old and has shown people that size doesn't matter when it comes to hard work and perseverance. Now back to you in the studio.
Wow, he might have been 5'3", but he sure did have a lot of heart.
I know. Nice story.
Now let's get into the story of an explosion.
The Halifax explosion.
Shared by Caleb O'Laughlin.
I'm Caleb O'Laughlin, here to tell you more about the biggest man-made explosion before nuclear weapons. It happened in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, on December 6, 1917. The explosion happened during World War I. Halifax Harbor was one of Great Britain's most valuable bases in North America. Halifax Harbor helped ships with soldiers, supplies, food, and water get through to the front lines of the war. If you remember, World War I went on for 4 years. Germany, the Ottoman Empire, Bulgaria, and Austria-Hungary fought against Serbia, Russia, France, Belgium, and Britain, also including Canada and Australia. The explosion happened when two ships, the SS Emo and the Mont Blanc, collided. The Mont Blanc has had many explosives as cargo. Although the collision was small, it was enough to knock over some of the barrels of benzol, a highly flammable liquid. The sparks from the two ship's hulls scraping together ignited the benzol, and soon there was an uncontrollable fire on the deck of the ship. Minutes later, the fire reached the other explosives, and the Mont Blanc exploded. The ship was torn to almost nothing besides a hot iron that fell from the sky. About 2,000 people were killed and 9,000 were injured. The shock wave completely flattened many neighborhoods on both sides of the harbor. The shock wave also created a huge tsunami, which wiped out the community of Mi'kmaq First Nation, who had lived in the Tufts Cove area for a long time. Soon after the explosion, people began the construction of makeshift houses for the approximate 25,000 people left homeless. Rescue trains began arriving the day of the explosion, and hospitals became full quickly. Within 3 hours of the explosion, officials had formed an official Halifax Relief Commission to rescue victims of the explosion. There were many heroics that saved a lot of lives on December 6, 1917 in the Halifax Harbor explosion. Now back to you in the studio.
Wow, wonderful story, Caleb.
Yeah, what a mind explosion.
Now let's hear of a tale of a great American icon.
The Statue of Liberty.
Let's get into it, Eva.
Imagine standing in New York. You are at the heart of an island. Standing in front of you is a massive statue. Most people recognize it by its teal, aqua green color. Yes, the Statue of Liberty is a widely known symbol. The tablet with our country's Day of Independence, July 4th, 1776, in her left hand and a torch held high in her right, she's a majestic sight for immigrants looking for a better life here in America. Today, I will share with you why we have it, facts on how it was built, a little information on Lady Liberty herself, and known events that have affected the Statue of Liberty. To start off, I'll tell you why we have it. The Statue of Liberty was given to America as a gift for its centennial, or 100th birthday. In other words, it was to celebrate 100 years after signing the Declaration of Independence. The statue is also supposed to symbolize the friendship between France and the U.S. But the process to make the 151-foot statue is long and difficult. The man credited for creating the statue is Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. Lady Liberty was made out of metal and copper sheets as thick as 2 pennies. It took 8 years to make the statue, but all that work sure to pay off. Lady Liberty sure does have lots of symbolic features to show. Lady Liberty is supposed to represent Libertas, the Roman god of freedom. Many of her tiny details have meanings too. For example, have you ever noticed the 7 spikes on her crown? Those stand for the 7 seas. And the broken chains and shackles around her feet stand for breaking free of harsh rules. After all, that is what both countries did to earn their freedom. Lastly, the Americans decided to add a little bonus to the pedestal. They added 40 tiny circles to represent the states at the time. Now, let's see if these events ring a bell. Remember the attacks of September 11th? That caused the Statue of Liberty to close for 100 days. And a bombing in New York caused Lady Liberty's torch to close down. So, let me remind you of what I've talked about. I shared with you why we have Lady Liberty and how she was built. I've told you symbolic details about the statue and known events that have affected the Statue of Liberty. Next time you visit the Statue of Liberty, maybe you'll feel a little more grateful for France, our freedom, and her. Now, back to you in the studio.
Wow, my heart is ringing with pride.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, let's hear about one of the greatest basketball players, Kobe Bryant.
Shared by none other than Adriana Sousa.
Let's roll on into it, Adriana.
Hi, do you like Kobe Bryant? First, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Adriana, and I will be talking about Kobe Bryant. Kobe is an NBA All-Star player. Kobe Bryant was born on August 23, 1978, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In 2008, Kobe played in the Olympics for the first time. His dad was an NBA player, so he taught him basketball at a young age. Kobe lived in Italy, Philadelphia, Ardmore, and Newport Beach. Kobe started the NBA when he was 18 years old, known as the youngest NBA player to start. Kobe's first daughter, Natalia, was born on June 19, 2003. His second daughter, Gianna, was born on May 1, 2006. His daughter, Bianca, was born on December 2018, and Capri, his fourth daughter, was born on June 2019. His dad was Joey Bryant, and his mom was Pam Bryant. He started the NBA when he was 18. He played his whole professional career for the Los Angeles Lakers for 20 years to be exact. Kobe was the fourth on the NBA all-time scoring list and won 5 NBA championships. Kobe died January 26 in Calabasas, California. The National Transportation Safety Board published on Friday a number of details the board had gathered from the ADSB tracking database video camera footage. New York and California had a ceremony. Now do you like Kobe? I hope you like this. Now back to you.
I didn't know he was one of the youngest players to play in the NBA.
Yeah, great story, Adriana.
Yes, you know what else has a great topic?
No, what?
The 1918 influenza pandemic, of course.
Shared by none other than moi.
Let's get into it, Maddie.
Have you ever been stuck at home with a high fever, body aches, extreme tiredness, dry cough, sore throat, and/or congestions? You probably had the flu. The flu is a nickname for influenza di freddo, or influence of the cold. Back in 1918, the very deadly H1N1 virus was known as influenza, or the Spanish flu, because as it was known in 1918, Spain had the disease first, even though it is heavily debated. Spain was not able to join World War I because of it. About 8 million Spaniards died of influenza. When the American soldiers came to fight in World War I in Europe, several, if not all, soldiers became infected. Not knowing the dangers of the disease, the generals sent them back home, when they showed symptoms of being sick, later infecting more and more people. Doctors and scientists had never seen a virus before, so there was only non-pharmaceutical interventions like washing your hands. That could not help because of how deadly it was. It affected young people, ages 8 to 30, which at the time was most of the population. People were trying to create their own interventions. Things like anti-flu gargles and wearing flu masks became popular. There were even new laws like pay a fine if you were not wearing a flu mask in public, so no one would spread the virus. Sadly, we were not able to stop the virus in time. More than 1/3, or 500 million people in the world became infected, killing 50 million. It is still the deadliest disease ever recorded for that time without vaccines. Now the flu is just something that'll make you stay at home for a couple of days. It's important to take care of it even more than 100 years ago because it could come back even more deadly than before. Back to you in the studio.
Wow, 500 million were infected.
I know, diseases do travel pretty quick.
Now, let's get into the final story.
Shared by none other than Gianna Hernandez.
Yes, this story is all about the paint horse.
A beautiful type of horse.
The American paint horse. The American paint horse has a lot of great features. They also have things about them that are really cool, like how they can be in movies. During 1519, a Spanish explorer went on an exploration and brought 16 horses with him. One of those horses was brown with distinctive white spots. Soon after the exploration, the English, French, and other European explorers brought paints to North America. Many of the horses that went on the exploration ended up roaming wild. The American paint horse is generally short-coupled, strong-boned, and well-balanced. American paint horses can generally weigh between 1,000 to 1,200 pounds and can reach 14.2 to 16.2 hands high. One hand is equal to 4 inches. The American paint horse comes in numerous types of colors such as bay, chestnut, black, palmino, gray, buckskin, and blue roan. But one thing that is more important than their physical coloring is their white spots. American paint horses are used for general riding. They are also used for ranch work. Paint horses may also be used for rodeos and trail riding. These horses can also be used for U.S. racing, showing, jumping, dressage, and driving. Some interesting facts about the American paint horse are that they are closely related to the American quarter horse, and they are extremely intelligent. Paints are known to be calm dispositions. They are wildly popular, and they can also participate in many different unique sports. Some more facts about them are that they have really unique coat patterns, and their eyes can be mixed, like one brown eye and one blue eye. Now that you know more knowledge about the American paint horse, do you find them interesting? Like how they can have mixed eyes? Back to you in the studio.
I love horses, but I love that story even more.
Yeah, I didn't know they can have 2 different color eyes.
Are there any more stories to listen to?
Sadly, no, but they were good while they lasted.
And we can keep rewatching them if we like.
Thanks to all that helped.
We'll see you next time on Channel WPIG News.